The Meritorious Manumission Act of 1710 was a legal act of freeing or showing favor to a slave for good deeds as defined by the national public policy. In other words, you did something against your own people, or you was a snitch.
Welcome, family. It's good to see you on your return to another session of Dissected Soul Epiphany. Today, we will discuss the Meritorious Manumissions Act of 1710. As we look throughout history, we see many different examples of how mind games are being played on masses of people, as well as countries. And these strategies have been used on society from its inception. But as a country, we have our own examples of how strategies are used on the public to divide and conquer and separate and cause division amongst sections of people, and even fact, some are the same people. Just as the Maryland Doctrine of Exclusion, which was written in 1638, only 19 years after the start of the Middle Passage or the African slave trade, and created by both the Democratic and Republican Party, which was one party at that time, which is one of the main reasons neither party want to deal with reparations at this time. Because during that time, they both agreed that no person of color, his descendants or ancestors, will rise above that of a European, which they both stick to this day. Now, the Meritorious Manumission Act of 1710, which was first started as a policy in Virginia, which, similar to the Willie Lynch letter, was another method or strategy or policy put in place try to break up, separate, and cause mistrust against black people at that time. It was a public policy in which they would reward any black person that assisted, helped benefit, invent something, or commit any action or deed that would benefit the slave owner or his family, similar to snitching, that benefited the slave owner. And for this service, they would receive a reward, whether monetary, freedom, or basic, better necessities. In other words, a snitch. This policy was enacted 90 years after the beginning of slavery and was built and put into place to cause dissent and mistrust between the African people. Even though this was something created to disrupt and separate the union of the African people, this was counteracted by the abolitionists, who were part of the slave owner's family, who assisted and helped the African slaves. And in other words, causing mistrust amongst the African slaves, they also caused mistrust between themselves and their own with the abolitionist movement. And with this policy in place, not only did both thrive, as well as the abolitionist movement and this movement, but it continues to this day. They are still what they call sellouts or snitches, or as they call now, SOBs, which was snitches on black people. As you look into all the entertainment, sports arenas, politics, legal firms, universities, and all the categories of our pillars of industry, you can see those who receive reward for becoming SOBs or snitches on blacks or sellouts on blacks throughout our history, which is also part of the Willie Lynch letter, which says a percent or 10% of that particular group they will let move to other levels to cause dissent amongst those that feel below. And those that do not feel dissent will admire those who they feel are moving up and will have ambition to continue the cycle. Since the initiation in 1710, this is not only used in the African American culture or society or neighborhoods, this is used in every nationality at the moment. This is exactly what's implemented when you see rising stars or those entertainers who seem to rise very quickly, or those Hollywood stars who tend to dash to elite status very quickly. Think of this. And anything you can think of that's done on the local level can also be done with countries. This particular tactic and strategy was used against Ethiopia and Egypt as countries. The U.S. favored Egypt to cause dissent between the two. And this was as recent as March 2020. Both are African nations, but choosing one is a tactic and strategy to cause dissent and separation from the other. And this is not a new strategy. This was used against Pontius Pilate and the people that was following Jesus. In one of the stories of the Bible, when you have two factions, you will favor one so that it creates dissent with the other, while the people who creates this tension backs up into the shadows. The main and important part of this strategy is the reward. You are trying to reward one part of this two-part party so that it cause dissent amongst the group between the two, so that they will never bond or agree. They will become adversaries and enemies eventually. Though there are many strategies, methods that they implement throughout history for black people, no matter what continent, city, or state you live in, it has always been an objective to put obstacles in the direction of us and our progress, which initially started with Ptolemy coming from Rome into Alexandria, Egypt. So as we move through life, you tend to look at those who are receiving those rewards. You need to think about these strategies: the Maryland Doctrine of Exclusion, the Willie Lynch letter and 10%, and now the Meritorious Manumissions Act of 1710. All three of these strategies are built to divide and separate us so that we do not trust ourselves with each other, and so that we see each other as enemies or adversaries instead of family, in which we should love each other and trust each other. Well, I appreciate you listening, and thank you for giving me your time and space. I am you, and you are me. We are the roots of the tree. This is 2020 family, perfect vision. Close your eyes so you can see. May you walk in power so you can empower those you pass along your way. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our content. Please share this content with at least 5 people you know so we can grow the Tassetti family. Love, peace, and power. Pharaoh J. Tassetti.